Hey, Abram, I don't know if you can hear me. I just want to let you know it's also super fuzzy.
Can you hear? How?
Jen, can you hear us okay?
I can partially hear that. It's kind of coming and going. I can partially hear you. I mean, it's not my volume is all the way up. It's all work. I did my hardware test again just to make sure it's shows I'm fine. Sure. Okay. Hold on.
We're sorting out one technical issue, but my normal reminder that if you would like to speak at tonight's meeting, you need to fill out a comment card in the back and bring it to the city secretary if you would like to speak tonight. We're going to start as soon as we recover some technical difficulty.
Yes. Yeah, that's better. So, honestly, no, the video's not any better, but I can see people's outlines. I just can't see people. I mean, I can't see anything detailed. Yeah, I can hear now.
putting more agendas on the back table for those who didn't get one.
All right, it's 7:06, and we are going to begin the March 16th regular agenda meeting. City Secretary, is a quorum present?
Yes, sir.
All right, then we're going to move on to invocation and pledge of allegiance by Ivan Orlina, lead pastor of the church at Jersey Village.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for your presence in this place. Thank you for the opportunity that we have to be together. We want to ask you for your presence, for your peace in our hearts, in our families, in our community. We want to ask for wisdom. We want to ask for peace. And thank you so much, because we know that you are God and you are with us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
All right, next we're going to move on to citizen comment. Before we move on to some of these, there are a number of them on the same subject. I want to say very clearly that your voices matter, and I'm glad you're here. I'm going to provide a little bit of context that this is not a new or sudden change. Roughly 90% of the IPMC is already in our city ordinances. It's a consolidation of that language into a recognized standard. It went through a review process and went before the Building Board of Adjustment. There are several Houston cities that have adopted it. It's about safety, things like non-functioning sewer systems and generally hazardous conditions. It's not about aesthetics. It is not an attempt to start any kind of HOA. It's not about how your home looks. With that said, we are here to listen. Feel free to make comments on that, and we're going to get started. Brian McCauley.
All right, appreciate it. So in reviewing the meeting agenda, I think that was one of my concerns is I really don't know if this is something that was already adopted, if these are minor changes that don't really maybe mean a whole lot or weren't significant. So really like to have some more clarity on that as you guys go through the discussion. One of the things that really stuck out in the research that I've done is that there's a lot of complaints that this policy specifically and that it can be abused by governments, and that's something that certainly I would be wanting to avoid. One suggestion we might have, and maybe it's not necessary, maybe it is, just a thought, is sometimes it's helpful to enact a sunset clause on some of these things and see, hey, let's try it for a few years, see how it works. And if it doesn't, it'll go by the wayside. And then, if City Council in the future decides they want to reenact it, they certainly can do that. So, but that's kind of the thrust of my comments too. So I'd like to hear more about that. So thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Michael Turgeon.
Mayor, councilmen, members, and fellow residents, good evening. Mayor, I have to disagree with you on what this IPMC does. I'm a resident here in Jersey Village, and you're being asked to pass something that seems like routine code adoption. Before the vote's taken, every resident deserves to know what and understand what is actually being enacted. I'd like to ask the council to consider why it is being asked to vote on something of this magnitude without a full briefing on what it contains. That responsibility rests with city management, not the council. This is the first time Jersey Village has ever adopted the International Property Maintenance Code. That alone warrants deliberation. As I think most of you are aware, there is a Texas law, House Bill 2127, also known as the Death Star Law, that prohibits cities from passing ordinances stricter than state law. It has been fully enforced since July 2024. The proposed ordinance up for a vote tonight explicitly requires the most restrictive provisions to govern whenever there's a conflict. In my opinion, that creates a serious legal issue for the city. I've heard it said that no city adopting the IPMC has been sued, and that simply is not true. A Dallas lawsuit filed in October 2025 was the first citizen-led challenge under this law, targeting 83 ordinances. The litigation on this is just getting started. By adopting this ordinance, the council would be enacting not just the IPMC, but 9 additional codes incorporated by reference, including the International Plumbing Code and 8 others. There's nearly 5,000 pages of regulation. It's more than 4 complete Bibles. And Mayor, I trust that you're going to do this as what you're saying is what it is, but you're not going to be mayor forever, and these council people aren't going to be the council people forever. So what is law and what you guys sign off on is what it's going to be. So the first public notice went out on this 10 days ago, I believe. It was, I think, the Friday before the board meeting, and you guys were provided a packet sometime thereafter, which is just simply, I think, not enough time. I don't think it's fair to council to ask you guys to make a decision on this. So to put it in terms we can relate to, here's one of the things I found. You were talking about what you found. I found something that I found a little egregious, and you won't find it in the IPMC, which is this. You'll find it in the International Plumbing Code, which this references and incorporates their regulations into it. And that is, it caps water flow at the shower at 2 gallons a minute, and caps your water temperature at 120 degrees Fahrenheit. And the other thing is, my understanding is there's no grandfathering on this because it's not a building code, it is a maintenance code. So that means the IPMC applies to every existing home and building in Jersey Village, regardless of age. You could start citing people tomorrow. And the city has not been waiting for tonight's vote to move forward on this. A full-time code enforcement officer is already being recruited. You guys have advertised for that. And outside contractors are being solicited through an RFP to come, and these contractors would come onto our property to fix violations, mow the lawn, haul the trash, pull the weeds, and then send us a bill for it. That's what you guys are passing. An inspector can show up at the door, and most residents will simply let them in. But in this case, that's not even really necessary because, for instance, back to the 2 gallon a minute water flow on the shower head, you guys know what our water usage is, I think, by the minute because of the water meters. So somebody could have IT pull up the records and go, hey, how much water flow does Terigian use when he turns the shower on? Oh, he's using 4 gallons a minute. That's a violation. So there's all sorts of data that's flowing here that I don't think has been presented to you or considered, and I think it needs to be. Additionally, when there's a citation...
Okay, that's your time.
Are we 5 minutes?
So that's your 5 minutes. You can stay there for just a minute. You're correct. There is no grandfathering in this code. Are you aware the International Building Code, the International Plumbing Code, almost every one of the codes that you cited are already adopted by the city.
Are you, if that's the case, so you're telling me everybody here uses 2 gallons a minute? That 2024 they passed the 2 gallon a minute rule.
Yes.
So Jersey Village passed the 2 gallons a minute and temperature control at the faucet, not at the water heater?
I don't know those specific details of the plumbing code, but I would not be surprised to find that, yes, those are plumbing code requirements that Jersey Village already has. I have been doing code since, I think, 2004. It is incredibly complex. The way that you're moving through the code is not the way that that code is written. It's not the way that it's valid use. Because we adopt the IPMC today does not mean that every house in Jersey Village has to have anti-scald devices or a heater in a garage. It's my understanding, did you send out a notice, is your interpretation that a heater is required in a garage in a workshop?
I didn't send that out.
Okay. This code does not require that. The International Building Code today has some requirements. This IPMC requires heating of habitable places. The garage is not one of those. A workshop is not one of those. It requires very important things. This IPMC requires very important things like a window in a habitable space. Every bedroom has to have a secondary exit. That's something that was introduced in the building code and has been in practice, but it's such a vital safety feature that it's actually in this code and says you have to have that. But this code is about things like no sewer service to your house, no septic system.
Mayor, I'm not saying it's a bad, and I'm not saying a lot of these things aren't good. I read, trust me, I've got brain damage from reading through this. I'm not saying a lot of it isn't good. I'm just saying I don't think you're aware of if someone literally interprets this, and you're sounding very reasonable, and the council seems very reasonable about this. But when it becomes the law, then that's what it becomes. And when there are less reasonable people sitting up where you're sitting, they could decide, you know what, the city's real short on funds, and we can start citing people, and that's a new revenue generation point.
I understand that concern, and thankfully, the people up here don't get to make those choices. We adopt the code, and it goes before any appeal has to go through the Building Board of Adjustment. Any lawsuit would go into a court, and I've been in those lawsuits. There are experts in how this is interpreted. A ICC code is the International Code Council, where these codes are written and designed. And what we are doing, the vast majority, the entire violation process, the appeals process, is the way that it's done today, is the way that we put it into this IPMC, which went through significant staff review and went through the Building Board of Adjustment, who has some great experts in the construction industry that live here in Jersey Village that read this, and they understand how codes are enforced, and they understand that it can't be interpreted the way that you're interpreting this code. It is not possible for Jersey Village to say, you used 5 gallons of water, so we know that you used too much in your shower. That is not something that can happen. The most strict statement that the most strict code applies is a common language used throughout all the ICC codes. It is a very common thing. It is because there's so many codes that they contradict, or someone intended to make a change here but didn't realize it made a change in a whole other code set or in a different chapter of that book. And when the most strict code is struck for a reason or it doesn't apply, it goes to the next lower. But this code, if you read, I think it was section 301 or 303, talked about violations, and it outlines that all the violations related to this code are something that the current situation contradicts our current code in a way that poses a serious hazard to persons or property. It's not that the water was over 120 degrees. It's that the water was 200. It was that you don't have a way to deal with sewer. It's your house is well under, it had a certain temperature, but into freezing where it's unsafe for someone to live. This is not about minor things, and it's interpreted that way correctly. If the way that ICC wrote it, that is the way that it's supposed to be done.
Is it possible for you guys to, some of these codes I think apply much more to, like say, apartments where the resident doesn't have control over the water heater, perhaps, or a hotel or something else. Is it possible for you guys to exclude owner-occupied private homes?
That I'm going to leave for the discussion because I don't want to speak for any of the other 5 that are here. Okay. But we're going to move on.
Thank you for the extra time.
Thank you. Butch Cox.
I'll make it short and sweet. I think you ought to table this and investigate it more. I'm a 40-year resident. I came from Spring Branch. I know all about Jersey Village. Played golf out here in '76 when my company owned that course. I'm just thinking that you're jumping the gun. I have faith in you. You are the council, and you represent us, the people. We all live here and have to abide by the rules. Investigate it a little more, take your time, and then vote. Don't jump the gun and run in and vote on it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Judy Yarberry.
Good evening. My name is Judy Yarberry, and I'm a longtime resident of Jersey Village. I think I want to start off very positive by saying I love living in the city of Jersey Village. Strong sense of community. I love how I feel safe in the city of JV. I am concerned in the last 5 years, plus or minus, the level of spending that the current elected officials and city managers have done, and we can get down into the weeds, which I went back actually and went through the budget for 2025-26, and I will just say I'm concerned of the level of spending, specifically our city campus. I voted for one pool. We're going to have 2 pools, okay. In the corporate world in which I came, private sector, privately held, but very profit-oriented, we kind of hit a glitch, and when we did, we brought in an efficiency expert. The board approved. Some of the C-suite were a little rattled by that, but it certainly brought some things to light on a better way that we can spend our money, revenue. I am concerned of the 9.7% increase in our property taxes year over year. I know we've had an increase in our water rate, but I am also aware that's pretty much statewide, if not nationally. Water is going to be soon a very precious resource. So as long as it's clean, I'm willing to pay that extra money for now. So I hope at some point somebody around here considers, now I don't know if it's in the budget or it'd be a secondary budgetary revision, but I think it's time that you bring in a third party to take a look at some of the expenses that are causing us to maybe spend more than we're receiving. Until you can bring in massive sales tax, business development, the only way that you can pass your expenses is onto us, the citizens, through higher property tax. I don't mind paying higher property tax for good, high-quality service, but I am a business background person, small business and corporate, and I believe in doing things within your budget and staying on scale. So I'll end by saying that the city of Stratford, unfortunately, has, in 2005, had a 2.9 deficit in their budget, and because of that, there was citizens' demand for an efficiency audit. So I hope at some point you consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Amelia Pop.
Hello, my name is Camelia Pop. I'm a new resident here, and I work as a legal assistant or paralegal for a firm that represents HOAs. So day in, day out, my job is to file suits against citizens or residents regarding DRV's violations and unpaid assessments. And you were saying that you're not planning to go after the citizens for violations of the code. Yet you did post something on LinkedIn about nuisance abatement and property maintenance request for quotes. So you're hiring someone to come and look for nuisance. Is that right?
Austin, is that a renewal, a re-up of an RFP, or is it? We already do this.
We've had a code enforcement officer here for decades, very long time. We have one currently as well. The RFP that you're referencing is for somebody to do the abatement services when that's necessary. That's not necessary often. Typically, a letter goes to a resident and they take care of the issue themselves, but there are some absentee landlords here that we do have to abate their properties with on occasion. And this just gives us a list of contractors that we can go to and say, you're going to do it for this price because it's already negotiated like that, rather than one-off phone calls or things of that nature.
So it's not a renewal of an RFP, it's formalizing, because since I've been here, we've done this quite a bit, and it's starting to pick up. So it's just formalizing and basically going after a competitive bid to have a more economical way of doing it.
Okay.
Go ahead, I'll restart.
So also you said that you're not really implementing a new code. The code was already in place. So what exactly is changing? Why are we voting again on it?
I think we're going to end up talking mostly about that, but yes, 90% of the code is already in city ordinances. It's moving it from ordinance into the code.
Okay. Another question that I had is regarding the what happens if someone doesn't clean their property, and say that you already sent the letters out, you already did everything you could. Would you put a lien on the property? Is there any possibility of foreclosure? What would that look like?
I have no doubt that's going to come up later. It will not change based on adoption of this code. It is the same process today as it will be tomorrow, if it passes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick Faircloth.
My name is Rick Faircloth. I'm at 16010 Lakeview. Been out here for 47 years, so I've seen a lot of changes. The item I'm speaking of is on the regular agenda, item F2. I understand we're going to be going out to issue a contract for some street improvements on the east side of Senate for Seattle in Singapore. And we had an issue a number of years ago on Seattle on the other side. And I spoke at that meeting, and there were things that were not in the original contract, which was like for like. If you take up St. Augustine, you put it back. There was requirements for hydroseeding, and this council did make a change to remedy that. We also, there were issues with people who had sprinkler systems, and I think those were fixed, but I don't know if those kind of details are in this specific contract that's going to be approved tonight. So just wanted to bring up some of the old issues and making sure that those type of getting the property back to like it was before the construction started, mailboxes and so forth. So that's my comment tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. I'm sure that'll come up. Thanks for sending your email ahead of time. Jim Fields.
I can answer that real
Go
quick
ahead.
if you like, because Mr. Faircloth, as I emailed you earlier today, we do like for like fixes like that. So we're putting sod in based on the council direction. We fix the irrigation and the mailboxes.
Hello, my name is Jim Fields. I live at 16413 St. Helier. Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to contribute to tonight's meeting. I want to say thank you to the city manager for taking care of the signs over on the area that's west of Jones Road. Makes it really nice to find out where you're going and also tell your friends how to get there. Also, I want to give thanks to Councilman Hughes for holding another town hall meeting. And I want to thank Councilperson Rossi for attending. I hope this will be an example of leadership that the new people running for council will follow. Mayor, I have 3 questions here that should be quick. One is Jersey Village a sanctuary city?
Unless your other 3 questions.
Okay.
Hey guys, sorry, I did not hear what he said. Can I get him to repeat that, please, into the microphone?
Yes, ma'am.
He asked if this was a sanctuary city.
Number 2, when and which areas will the sewer and water lines be replaced? I don't have much time here, Mayor. If you don't have an answer, please let me know, because I got to move on.
Finish your time. Sure, go.
Yeah, unless the item's on the agenda, council can't respond.
Thank you,
unless
Attorney.
they know explicitly facts offhand.
Understood. Thank you again. And you said we're going to get back with me last time. What is the source of water for irrigation on the golf course? And I understand it's not on the agenda. So if you can please get back with me on that, I appreciate that. Infrastructure, street sign missing at Pleasant Colony and Steepleway, going on for 1 month. Missing bridge sign and no parking on this side of missing Castle Beach, going on for 3 months. Street collapsing between Sam's and Park Ride for over a year. Streets markings need repainting, lane dividers, walkways, etc. over a year. There's a terrible stench at sewage plant at Philippine for going over 2 months. Concerns, the construction of the bridge at Ecuador is substandard. The bridge walkway is made of some crude concrete and is rough. The sides of the entrances are uneven on the sides, and I'm going to tell them like 2 inches. I don't know how they did the forming. It was terrible. And then underneath the walkway are the walkways, or not walkways, but the actual stairs. They use sand underneath it. And if you look that up, you can't use sand because it'll be washed away. Building a $6.5 million pool complex on a floodplain next to a floodway, it's right adjacent to it, is a very risky proposition. Also, the city needs to move the voting in May to another area as the meeting room is not adequate in size and poses a fire safety hazard with so many people in the room. I think it was like 38 machines and it was packed. The two-pool design, which the citizens did not select, will cost more and pose more safety risks. We need to double the number of lifeguards, and there's an increased risk of children getting hurt running back and forth between the pools. And we have the highest tax rate in Harris County, the highest. Recommendation is vote no on Proposition A as it limits the citizen's ability to decide how much money should be spent. Also, the monies are placed in a separate account and cannot be transferred to the general fund. This increases the number of monies required for the rainy day fund. And you, Mayor, used the Metro as an example. That's a terrible example. Metro is terrible. The city should rent the election machines from the county. This will reduce costs and ensure all votes will be counted. Also, the city needs, I already mentioned that one, yes. The pool should be built somewhere else. Placing a speed marquee 40 feet in front of a stop sign is useless. I don't know who came up with that one. Thank you again.
So, if there's a historian better than me, please contact me and let me know. My understanding is the CCPD was created to stop Metro from taking money out of Jersey Village. Jersey Village follows all applicable state federal laws, and as far as water and sewer replacements, there are probably too long lists here, but the city website has a lot of details. Drew Watson.
I was just going to say, I believe, aside from city municipal voting, which we'll have in May and late April, the county is in charge of voting selection, voting rooms, and of course they work with the county and I'm sure the city fire marshal on crowd and how many people can go into a room at a time. And then on that, I'll just be in general, if you see issues, there's a place on the city website and also on the app to report them, and that way there's accountability and ownership of the city now knows about them and on an official capacity, and then they will respond to them. And you can look up and see if they've responded to them or not. And it'll let you know of issues of a similar sort that have occurred, because I'm getting those emails. And so it's quite interesting.
So I actually met the Harris County clerk in this room last month, and I know that office does an extraordinary amount of due diligence at every one of their voting locations. Bill Edwards.
Good evening, Council. My name is Bill Edwards. I think everyone knows me. I'm talking today about efficiency. Some council meetings past, it was brought up to get an efficiency audit, and it kind of went away. I spent several years in the oil industry as a consultant, consulting everything from the big 7 oil companies down to small operators. We came in, my responsibility was basically data efficiency and how to use databases, create databases, things of that nature. The rest of the company would do operations. Not a single serious manager rejected more than, well, let me put it this way, they accepted the majority of our suggestions because every one of them wanted to know how to more efficiently use their money, how efficiently to use their people, and unfortunately the oil and gas industry has a really long history of laying people off and then rehiring them. But to not even consider an efficiency audit is, I think, a very poor choice. Any manager worth his salt would be looking forward to figuring out how he could do things better in a more efficient manner. That's all I have to say.
Susan Edwards.
I'm Susan Edwards. I live at 16001 Jersey Drive. So I was kind of surprised to see on the agenda about the International Property Maintenance Code. So I did the best I could to delve into it in the last day or so. And So as I did look through it, I noticed how detailed it is. And I know you've already talked about the plumbing and all, but I noticed that they can not only look at the exterior of our property, but they can, as you mentioned, they can come into our homes. So they can even notice peeling paint, and we can get cited for that. We don't even, as homeowners, we don't even know that they're going to cite us for that. And so then, if we are cited, we have to go through an appeal process, and that's upon us and lawyers and all. I get to this meeting and I find out that there was, I saw something on Facebook, then I saw something, I believe, on Nextdoor, but evidently there were other things going on also that I didn't know about until I got here, and I didn't really have any time to read it, but so some people had more knowledge about this than I did ahead of time. I don't think anybody had, a lot of time to look into this, and as someone mentioned, it's 5,000 pages, which, as council, I know y'all have a lot to look at just trying to figure out the agenda, much less 5,000 pages or plus. This is a huge code, and evidently we have been using it for years, but I just figure that it's a lot of detail. A huge infringement on us as homeowners. I really want you to think seriously about this before you pass any more about it. Just think about it, please.
Thank you, Susan. We'll clarify that we've not been using this code for many years. When adopting, you make changes to the code, and those are all detailed in the packet, but the changes incorporate and pull things from the Code of Ordinances and realign that. So we haven't been using this code. It just aligns with our standard practices. Kim Clemens.
Good evening, Council. Kim Clemens. I live at 15926 Lakeview Drive, Jersey Village. First of all, Jen, how is Hugh doing? I know you're working from home. How's our guy?
He's not moving much. Let's put it that way. But
Nice.
It's all right.
Nice.
Thank you.
Less
for
maintenance, absolutely. First of all, and secondly, thank you, Chief Keel, Chief Bitts, for everything you do for our city. It's welcomed, and our safety within our city is, we're lucky, we're fortunate, so thank you for everything you guys do. Amelia, you brought up something great earlier. You work in HOA, that area of law. I think that we're blessed that we have a city council member who sits on the dais that works one of the largest law firms in the state of Texas, ABHR, who represents MUDs and HOAs, not only here in Houston, but in Austin and Dallas. So, Councilwoman Rossi, thank you for everything you bring to the dais. We appreciate you. The last thing I want to talk about is fairness in our city whenever it comes to elections. We all know that things are going to get a little bit contentious. People are going to want to start having debates, forums, this, that, and the other. My issue is that we keep it fair and balanced. And if you are sitting in a certain political chair lead, it is not fair to ask members who are currently running for a city council position to sit in a debate whenever you have one of the opposite signs sitting in your yard currently. So if we want to keep it fair and balanced, let's keep it fair and balanced. And if you also sit on city council and you're driving that conversation, I don't think that's fair either. So with that, that's all I have to say. I think that everybody deserves a fair shot. And if you want to call it fair, let's keep it fair. That's all I have to say.
Kimberly now.
My name is Kimberly Anal, and I live at 15601 Singapore Lane. As my 54th installment on Jersey Village, since election season is upon us, there are new residents and some long time who may not be familiar with how our Jersey Village municipal government functions under the city charter, Harris County, Texas, and federal laws. In 1956, Leonard Lee was notified that the city of Houston was going to annex Jersey Village, so Lee presented a petition to all residents who signed, resulting in the incorporation as a municipality effective April 16th. Lee became our first mayor, calling the first city council meeting to order on June 18th, 1956. Jersey Village is a city that operates as a home rule charter as adopted by electors and council in 1986 with amendments over the years. The Municipal Code Section 1.02 explains the form of government as a council manager and is pursuant to provisions and limitations of the U.S. Constitution, laws of the state of Texas, and by the charter, as all powers of the city shall be vested in and exercised by an elective city council. The council shall enact ordinances, adopt budgets, determine policies, appoint the city manager, and execute other powers and duties as prescribed in the charter. To register for the unpaid position on Jersey Village City Council, the person must be a resident of and have lived continuously in the city for not less than 1 year prior to the election, be qualified to vote in city elections, and not be in arrears of paying city taxes. The council shall be composed of a mayor and 5 other council members serving a term of 2 years. Filled by majority vote, council places 1, 4, and 5 are elected on even-numbered years, while places 2 and 3, as well as the mayor, on odd-number years. The term limitations are no more than 3 consecutive 2-year terms as mayor, nor more than 4 consecutive 2-year terms as council member or a combination of mayor and council member. The charter further authorizes the council to elect a mayor pro tem who serves if the mayor is unavailable, yet retains the right of voting as typical of council, while the mayor can only break a tied vote. Mayor and council are not allowed to instruct or request the city manager to appoint to or remove from office or employment any person. This keeps politics and overreaching out of daily functions of the city's departments and also enables full control over development of our zoned city. Procedures for governmental meetings includes the Open Meetings Act, as it requires meetings of governmental bodies to be open to the public, except for expressly authorized closed or executive sessions, and to be preceded by public notice of the time, place, and subject matter of the meeting. In order for a closed meeting to occur, an agenda is also made available, and the quorum open meeting is begun with the presiding officer, such as the mayor, publicly advising of closed meeting and detailing the subchapter D legal reasons, such as consulting with the city attorney, deliberations of real property, personnel matters, and economic development negotiations. Only members of the governmental body and necessary officers and employees are allowed in closed meetings. A governmental body may develop or adopt reasonable rules regarding the public's right to address council as to the subjects of the meeting, impose time limits, and prevent disruptions of the meeting. A single public comment period is at the beginning of an open meeting to address items on the agenda, though council may, but is not required to respond. If the public raises a non-agenda item, Section 551.042 of the Act still applies to limit responses, comments about non-agenda items. Our small town of nearly 8,000 residents and less than 4 square miles not only includes multiple generations of families which continue to live just down the street from each other, but also includes newer homeowners and renters. Once we sign that rental title or lease, we all become Jersey villagers. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. That is the end of citizen comments. There is no reason to hold consent agenda as individual items, so we are going to move on to E1, approval of the February 9th. Oh, sorry. Thank you. The city manager's report. I was getting too prepared.
That was me the other day when I ran the meeting. I was just kind of jumping along.
Mayor, councilors, the report is in front of you. Happy to answer any questions you might have on that.
I have a couple of comments. Let me zoom this out a little bit. Okay. So there is a city manager's report. If you're not keeping up with it, it's okay. We are. But, and I don't want to embarrass anyone, but the TPCA, which is the Texas Police Chiefs Association, and Chief Keel not only led the city's police department to meet the rigorous TPCA standards, but he's also trusted statewide to evaluate other major departments, showing that our small city sets a standard for professional policing. So I wanted to highlight that out loud. And thank you to Sergeant Doherty for creating the mini academy. Also in the Public Works Department, I'm not trying to take everybody's time, but Public Works Department highlighted Edward Orozco, if I said that right, hopefully. He was recognized for his attention to detail. And there was something about the Parks and Rec, generated $6,277 in the department revenue while serving 1,010 participants across recreation programs and events. Is this across all events in 1 month?
Yes.
And then also increased total facility usage, 134.67% compared to January, reflecting significant growth in rentals and event activity. So the question is, can you give me a couple examples, or at least one? What is that 100? What does that mean? What is that sliver? I guess.
I'll defer to Robert to answer that one a little bit more.
So facility usage can range from JVSO programming, Boy Scout meetings, Girl Scout meetings, yoga, Special Olympics, NCL, which is the National Charity League, PTO, Senior Fitness, and JVSO yoga, as well as like the sewing room. So that's just really programs. You might see some of the facility usage, the specific facilities shuffle. February we had elections, so some of our programs that we typically run here were repositioned throughout the city to kind of accommodate these individuals and user groups that are using our facilities.
Thank you.
I've got a couple of comments and questions. This last weekend I had a town hall and I spoke to residents, and I made some general statements about the overall budgets and the revenues that the city generates both from sales tax and from property tax. And looking at page 8 of the agenda, and Jennifer, these are directed to you as the Director of Finance. For property taxes that the city relies on, our budget for this year is $9.3 million, and we have collected, I say we, you, the city, has collected off that more than $9 million. Is that correct?
That is correct, in the general fund, which is for operations.
And property taxes only go into the general fund, correct?
They go into the general fund and to the debt service fund to repay our debt obligations.
Okay. The property taxes that go into the general fund, well, let me ask it a different way. On an annualized basis, is 9.387 the total property taxes to be collected?
That is what we budgeted, correct.
Okay, and then a portion of that goes to the into the debt service fund?
No, that is additional funding in the debt service fund. If you scroll to the next page, we have another $2,288,986 budgeted in the debt service fund.
Okay, so then the total property taxes for the city, if I add those two up, are roughly 11.5.
Roughly, yes.
Okay, and that's out of a city budget of 17 million, correct?
Yes, that sounds right.
Okay. And then just two other sort of high-level figures. In addition to residential property tax, we also collect sales tax, which accounts for a large portion of the city's revenues. And the sales tax component of the 17 million is approximately 4.7 million, correct?
The general fund component is 4.7 million, and then you have approximately another 4.7 million between the crime control district and the fire prevention district.
Correct, and that is the 4.7 million into the general fund and the 4.7 million which is divided into the police and fire funds. That represents 2%, with 1% going into the general fund and 0.5% each going into the police and fire funds, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And then just as you move through that, and in fact you can see again on page 8 that the police department has a projected expense in the budget for 2.6 and a projected or year-to-date actual expense of 1.1 million. And then the police department also pays for expenses out of the police fund, which if you look at, I think it's on page, there we go, on page 12, that police fund has a projected revenue of 2.6 and year-to-date actual revenue of 1.3. And the fire department has the same sort of thing. And I only point this out because I will tell you as a first-year city councilman looking through all of these funds, police, fire, general fund, golf course fund, utility fund, debt service fund, it starts to boggle the mind, and it's hard to get your head around it in terms of, well, where are our revenues, where are our expenses? If you come from a background like I do, which is you just have a single P&L and a single balance sheet. So, but Jennifer, I will compliment you on doing an excellent job of laying everything out in a very understandable way, and I appreciate that. I'm going to come back to you with another question, but I do want to comment one or two other things that I noticed in looking at the police and fire reports. And I can't see, is it Chief Bitts down there? Yes. Okay. Hey, Chief. So my question, I was looking at the incident types because I had never really delved into what the fire department, how many calls y'all go out on. And on page 51, it shows the number of calls that you take in the month in any given month, and then the volume of calls. And you provide a lot of breakdown details, how quickly you respond, where you go, what the type of calls are for. The one question I have for you is these two categories of incoming mutual aid and outgoing mutual aid. Can you explain to me what those are, or explain also for the audience?
Yes, outgoing mutual aid is to go and assist another agency that's out of our city. That's normally Cy-Fair Fire Department. We did 2 of those last month. And then we do get multiple calls that require additional assistance from outside agencies to come and help us, and that is incoming mutual aid. This month it was Cy-Fair Fire Department. They came 27 times.
And on those, how does it work with other fire departments? Is there any sort of a reimbursement, or is it just an understanding everybody helps each other? How does that work?
It is an understanding for up to 12 hours. After 12 hours, we can charge or they can charge for their services. That's a mutual aid agreement we have throughout the county with all 54 fire departments.
Okay. And then the last thing I noticed in reviewing this is the number of inspections that you all do, and I know that you go out to various businesses to make sure that they're fire code compliant, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I also wanted to highlight 2 or 3 other things with respect to the police department. Councilor Rossi had mentioned that Chief Keel, you had been called on to work on the accreditation assessments for And I was actually quite surprised. Amarillo, Waco, and Fort Worth. So while we, Little Jersey Village, have the accreditation, those other agencies do not yet, but you've been working with the peace officers group to help evaluate them and help them achieve that accreditation?
Correct. It's every 4 years it's a reaccreditation. Those agencies are accredited also already. In 5 years we'll get a reaccreditation, so it's an ongoing process.
I'm with you. Okay, and then I want to go back to the finance and understand from Jennifer the current audit that Crow is conducting. Where are we in the process of completing that audit?
Yes, so right now I actually was speaking with the audit lead today. We are expecting a draft of the audit any day now. He's preparing it for Stephanie Harris, who's our audit partner, to review. They will submit that to us to review as staff, and then we will return that with our comments. We do expect to meet the state deadline of March 27th to have that submitted to the city secretary, and then we will bring that forward to you at the April City Council meeting for presentation.
Okay. And preliminary point of conducting that audit, the city discovered that there was a discrepancy in the way that it was booking and remitting revenues to the state. Is that correct?
That was discovered as part of the work done through this audit, which is just our regular annual audit.
Okay. Could you describe what it was that the city discovered, or Crow discovered, in making inquiries to you about what the city did or did not do and how it's impacting the city?
So Crow asked just a regular documentation question for our ending state court costs payable balance. We have to file a report on a quarterly basis with the state. Whenever you pay a court fine, you pay court costs in conjunction with that. There are state court costs, and then there are city court costs. And in researching the number that made up that balance, I determined that we had not been reporting the court costs correctly to the state. Digging further into that, I found issues with the report. The ENCODE report wasn't set up properly. Whenever we upgraded to ENCODE 10, there was a change in the state law for violations on or after January 1st of 2020. And so in looking at that report, I immediately could tell that there was an issue. And so I went back and researched it and determined exactly how much we owed the state. We have the money. The vast majority of it has already been repaid back to the state. I'm waiting on the state to tell me how to file for 2020 and 2021 because I'm not able to do that online. And as soon as they tell me how to do that, I will get that taken care of.
I appreciate that. So, as I understand it, the city discovered that going back to 2020, it's supposed to collect and remit to the state a portion of the fines on a quarterly basis. And the city collected those amounts and improperly, not on your watch, but improperly remitted them into the general fund, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And then as a result of the audit and your inquiry and the errors that were omitted, it was discovered that a total of $1.4 million had been collected by the city and in fact needs to be remitted or is being remitted now to the state.
That's through the most recent quarter, correct.
Okay. And has an amendment been prepared or provided for the budget? Because I didn't see it in this packet to address that particular error.
So that is a liability account. It is not included in the annual budget because it is not city funds and does not require authorization. We're collecting those on behalf of the state and then remitting them to the state.
Okay. But that liability, as we incur it, will reduce. For example, at last council's meeting, you mentioned that the amount the city has in excess of is it a 5-month reserve?
We maintain a 3-month policy requirement.
And so in excess of a 3-month reserve, I believe you stated that the funds were $6 million, correct?
So the report that's in the February report is updated with the most up-to-date calculation of the beginning fund balance for this year, taking into account the previous years that needed to be corrected. And so as of the current budget ending fund balance is $12.17 million, which our policy requirement is a little over $4 million, and we are currently have $8.13 million in excess of that policy requirement.
Jennifer,
I'm sorry.
Does that fund calculated in the reserve?
I'm sorry?
You said that fund is a liability reserve. Is that calculated into the required reserve?
No, because it's a liability. The reserve is based on budgeted expenditures. And so we have $19 million right now in budgeted expenditures, backing out like our transfers to capital projects. Our 90-day reserve policy is $4 million. So we have approximately twice what the policy requires right now.
Twice in excess or just twice?
Twice over the policy, because we have $12 million and our policy requirement is $4 million.
Okay, all right. The issue with the person who had made those errors, that has been resolved. I think that was one of the items on the agenda. They've been removed from employment.
Yes, that person is no longer employed here.
Since we're going to talk about this in this meeting, to give some background on that, it's really important to realize we do an audit annually. We're required by the state to do an annual audit. We do this, and we've been using the same firm for 3 years. This firm was very related to the firm we used 3 years before that. We regularly go out for RFQ to look at other audit firms. It's very important to remember that these monies were never Jersey Village's. It's in an account that is managed by the court. A former employee who does not work here, did not submit paperwork correctly, did not submit payments correctly, that was found by a question of our current auditor, who our new finance director did some amazing due diligence, and instead of just answering a question, she asked why the question was asked, reviewed it further, found the issue that had been going on, and made a correction. I'm very appreciative that the state of Texas is not levying any fees, fines, interest, payments, any issues against Jersey Village. They're allowing us to correct the paperwork, pay them what we owe them, and move on from this, because a former employee absolutely made an error and a mistake. Anything else for the city manager's report? All right. As I mentioned, the consent agenda has pretty much been removed. So moving on to E1, approval of the February 9th, 2026 regular session minutes. My understanding is, Connie, you submitted a correction, and that has already been accounted in these, and it is as it stands now. Does anyone have any comments or a motion on the minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes from the February 2026 City Council meeting.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to E2, Resolution 2026 to suspend the CenterPoint Energy GRIP rate. City Secretary Courtney Rutherford.
Yes, Council. This is something that is presented to the city every year. In February, we got the letter from CenterPoint wanting to adjust that rate. It is going to be $2.47 per residential household. It's set to take effect April 18th. We cannot request a change in that rate. All we can do is request to suspend it by 45 days so that the rate will go into effect a little bit later for our residents.
So, I mean, I was confused, and I'm still a little confused about that. So, we request delay the rate increase, but we still have to deal with the rate increase. There's no chance to negotiate it, anything.
Correct. That we have no way to negotiate at all. All we can do is request to delay the rate for our city.
Just out of curiosity, is there an advantage to waiting? Does that mean that rate could change?
No, it just goes into effect later for our residents. Instead of April, we get a 45-day waiting period, basically.
Yeah, there's no penalty, and it's not going to change. But we can push to 45, and there's really no penalty for doing that.
Correct. That's our only option. Either it goes in effect April 18th, or we request it be suspended for 45 days.
So we save $2 to $4.
Yes.
Which is, I mean, $2 to $4.
Yes.
Then why wouldn't everybody do this? I mean, this seems silly.
I think majority of cities do suspend it.
And that's why this was on the consent agenda?
Yeah,
yes.
It's a CenterPoint Energy. I would entertain a motion on this event, making the effective date would actually be June 2nd, would be 45 days, right? Yeah. Motion, change the date to June 2nd.
Move to approve Resolution 2026-14 with the date of June 2nd, 2026.
Well, it'll just be the 45 days.
I'm sorry?
Okay.
We'll just submit it to them as the 45 days.
Okay. With a effective date of 45 days.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Jen, the motion's good. It's pushing it the 45 days. Motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item E3, appointing an interim municipal clerk, Finance Director Jennifer Brown.
So the city charter requires city council to appoint a municipal court clerk, and this term usually runs concurrent with the judges. With the termination of the previous court administrator, we have placed Amy Torres, who is our court clerk, deputy court clerk 2, in this position while we recruit for the position, and the position has been posted for about 2 weeks now, and I'm reviewing applications, and as soon as I can get with Judge Chancia, we're going to get interviews scheduled and get that position filled as quickly as possible.
Jennifer, is it possible, is it absolutely necessary to have 2 court clerks? Is it possible for Amy, I mean, could she be trained to assume all responsibilities and handle the job that both she and Ernesto did previously, since obviously there were some issues with his job?
Not long term. When we have court, we require the 2 court clerks to be here in the courtroom, and then the court administrator will typically be at the window serving customers in addition to other responsibilities. So right now, the 2 clerks are stretched very thin. We actually have a retired administrator from the city of Katy coming in to assist us on a contract basis. And so there's some additional knowledge that's required to be the administrator, there's work that needs to be done over and above right now that's just not getting done. And so we're trying to fill in the gaps where we can, but the goal is to get that position filled. There's absolutely no way we can do this long term.
And is there any possibility of cross-training or backup with any other people in the department?
In order to do this job, you have to be certified as a court clerk level, at least a level 2 through the Texas Municipal Courts Education Center. It takes a couple of years, and you need experience to get certified. So it's really difficult to have, none of the rest of my staff have any court experience. Right now we have our accounting manager filling in at the window on court days because Amy and Otilia need to be in the courtroom, and they're running back and forth. to help her with when she's got questions. And fortunately, we haven't had court, and we don't have it again until the 25th. But that first day, we had court the day after Election Day, and it was a bit hectic.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2026-15 to appoint Amy Torres.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to regular agenda F1, Ordinance 2026-9, International Property Maintenance Code Adoption, Community Development Manager, Maisha Johnson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The 2024 IPMC, as we've been talking about tonight, is what we are looking to adopt. Currently, most of the things that are in the International Property Maintenance Code are already in our Code of Ordinances. They're just not in the same area. So, for example, we have Chapter 34 of our code, which has... We have Chapter 34 of the code currently, which has the maintenance of structures, which talks about the exterior of every structure, including accessory structures and fences, shall be maintained in good repair. The same shall be maintained free of broken glass, loose shingles, crumbling or broken stone or brick, excessive peeling paint, or other conditions reflective of deterioration or inadequate maintenance to the end that the structure itself may be preserved, safety and fire hazards may be eliminated, and adjoining properties may be protected from blight influences. So these are things that are already in our Code of Ordinances right now that we're putting together. I also wanted to make the note that we have adopted in, I believe it was August 19, 2024, all of the other codes for ICC. So the International Building Code, Plumbing Code, Electric Code, that is exactly what we use right now for buildings and permits.
Mayor, if I can also add, back in the 2016 comprehensive plan, property maintenance was talked about a lot there. Increasing the codes was discussed there heavily. In 2020, the same thing was talked about. And then even one of the goals in the 2020 comprehensive plan was talked about implementing the IPMC as well as part of that. So that's where this whole process started from, was the citizen-led committees of the comprehensive plans, which has brought us to where we are tonight. It's gone through the BBOA, and it's here tonight for council to discuss, potentially take action on. They could table it as well, but just want to make sure that everybody's aware of kind of the background of how we got to this point.
So I have a question for the city attorney, rather. The agenda packet has the items from the BBOAA. It has what's stated as a red line, not a true red line, stating that we adopt these sections, we revise these sections. It does not have a complete copy of the IMPMC. And it seems to me that if you're going to adopt a resolution or pass a resolution that adopts an ordinance of a modified version of the IPMC, you would need to have the original IPMC as well as a red line of the changes to that, and that would need to be published to the residents before that matter could properly be taken up as an agenda item. And for that reason, I would ask that this matter be tabled based on what residents have said, their concerns over it, the fact that I didn't get a complete copy of the actual IPMC until late this afternoon, and I haven't had an opportunity to go through it. I'm not talking about the 5,000 pages. I'm just talking about the 48 pages. And I will point out one or two other things, and I'm going to ask the city secretary. The BBOAA, when they reviewed this, did they have the full version of the IPMC?
No, sir, they didn't. So as a city, we purchase a hard copy book, and we purchase an online copy that's only allowed to one user, and we're only allowed one printing of it. So it's almost like a protected document. But we were able today to figure out, you notice when I first sent it to you, it was only the one page. So we were able today to figure out how we could print make the extra copy.
Okay, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate the fact that if the BBOAA did not review the 48-page document, but they only reviewed the quote red line, which again is not a true red line, it's just a document typed out in red and underlined that says we adopt these provisions, we delete these provisions, and we move forward. I have to question on behalf of the residents, has this matter been given adequate consideration? And I don't think that the failure of the city to publish the complete IPMC in its agenda means that this matter could even be properly considered at this meeting. And I would move to table this item to a later date.
Was there a question you want me to answer?
So my question is it failure to publish publish in the agenda package the full IPMC, does that constitute a violation of public notice to the residents?
No, absolutely it is not. In fact, the City of Jersey Village goes above and beyond the vast majority of cities, almost every other city I work with, in that they publish the full agenda packet. Most cities do not even go that far. You get the agenda online before the meeting and that's it. Whether you need to publish the International Property Maintenance Code, I mean, I pulled it up in a browser while we were talking about it, and I'm looking at it right now. Anyone can do it. Anyone can pull it up. The way the code is written, a copy is retained in the city secretary's office. You can also reference it online. Would it be helpful? Sure.
I think it's more than helpful.
It's not preventative in terms of city council.
And I appreciate that as your opinion. My concern is that if the BBOAA, who is making the recommendation to council that we adopt this, and yet they didn't even review it, I mean, I just don't see that the city can move forward. All I would ask is that this matter be tabled, taken up at a later date, because, and contrary to the comments you made, Mayor, with respect to the enforceability of the IPMC, and the city's not going to do this, it's not going to do that. The enforceability is governed by whatever is in that instrument, not by the city's pattern and practices. So that's where the citizens' concern over, does it provide this, does it incorporate that, does it subject these property owners to scrutiny or regulation that they're not ready to be, that they disagree with, as property owners are apt to do, as to say, look, I bought my property, I own my property, I maintain it, I pay my taxes, but I don't want the city breathing down my neck about, every little thing. And I'm very adamant here that the procedure, what we've done, notwithstanding the city attorney's comment, that it's premature for this council at this date to take up this specific matter. I think that it needs greater consideration. I think that residents need to have more of an opportunity to review it. And I think the matter needs to be tabled.
Can I jump in real quick? Just as a point of clarity, and I never have a problem if you want to take more time to let people actually understand what's being talked about. No issue whatsoever with that. But without going line by line, I believe when I was reviewing it and removing the sections, I removed everything that was related to what the international code prescribes for enforcement, because when we say the city's pattern and practice, it's the city's pattern and practice under its current ordinances. And so what's coming in would be the property maintenance standards. What's not coming in is the International Property Maintenance Standards enforcement process. That's going to be what's under existing city code and existing state law.
And that's why in presenting it, and I think in presenting it to the BBOAA, it would have been appropriate to do a true red line of that instrument, to actually strike out, to have the full document in the template provided by the RFPMC and to strike out those provisions that you're deleting, to add any additional provisions that the city wants, and then to present it to council to say, this is what we want, so you can see what's been changed, what's been left alone, rather than that document that was
more than
provided.
happy to put that together if that's what you'd like.
That would make me very happy, and I think it would provide the residents with a better understanding of what they're potentially subject to.
Sure.
But, yeah, just a second. Are you aware these ICC codes are copyrighted? Are you aware of any cities who have gone in trouble because ICC has come after them for publishing their code, and that they often recommend cities redirect to their website?
Yeah, that's generally the practice. And actually, that's the reason the amendments are presented in the form of this section is amended by deleting this. This section is amended by removing this entirely and rewording it like that, because the ICC gets very picky about actually going in and looking like you're changing what's in their codes. Similar to the AIA contracts that we've talked about before. I hate supplemental conditions. That's the heavy-handed version of reading a thing versus a red line, which is very easy to understand. But it's a copyrighted document. Unless I've got a license, I can't do it. Our firm went and got out in the last month licenses for all the ICC codes so we can put that together, because I find this issue so annoying. I'll also tell you for clarity, this will be the first city that I'm aware of that has actually redlined an entire ICC code, because it's usually handled in the supplemental conditions. All this will do is just provide every change that's not being referenced in these changes.
But you know from doing a corporate transaction that to really understand the transaction, if you're looking at a 50-page purchase agreement, and you've got additions and modifications and deletions, etc., reading a 3-page document, here's how I changed it, is far different than reading the document and say, oh, you took out the comma and the and here and you put in the so there. I mean, it's completely different. And I'm not saying it's even down to that level, but I mean, to properly understand an instrument, because this idea that you just blanket, we adopt it, and you've got this 3-pager printed in red and underlined, which says, here's what we accepted, here's what we didn't accept.
Hold on. Before we go too far in this, I want to back up. I am in no way ever proposing that someone adopt a code without reading it. If no one's read the code, then I'll be the first person to tell you should table it until folks can read the code.
Then I recommend, or I move that we table this matter so that it can be properly prepared, presented to the board, presented to council for further consideration, and to allow the residents to comment on it.
There's a motion. Is there a second to tabling the subject?
I'll second to table it, but can I just make a couple of comments first?
For motioning and seconding to table it, then.
But I still have something to say. I want everyone to understand, when something goes on the agenda, Jersey Village City Council, even any one of my MUD meetings, that doesn't mean that the board members on my MUDs or the city council sitting up here is going to say yes. It's just, we legally have to discuss it. So just remember, when you see something on the agenda, it doesn't mean we all are just going to say yes to something. We legally have to deliberate it. That's part of why it's on the agenda, so we can discuss it. So I just kind of wanted to make that note, because that's really important to understand and know that that's what we're doing. That's why it's on the agenda, so we can discuss it.
Before we go with a vote, can I continue voir diring?
What I'm saying is, if we're going to table this, we table it. If not, we talk about it. Because, I wanted to have a comment. I would love to know if we're going to do this with IPMC, are we going to do this with the IBC, IFC, IPMC, the IMC, all the other codes? Because if we are, we should probably talk about a budget amendment.
Exactly.
That's kind of what I wanted to bring up with what James is saying. Is everybody aware that the BBOA meets and goes through these documents, and that the people on the BBOA are all, when I say significant professionals, 3 of them have been on the board since 1997. These are people that work in these fields, specifically citizens that live in Jersey Village. These are not outsiders. These are not people that you would not. These are not people that you wouldn't trust. These are people that live in your neighborhood that are actual experts in their field that deal with this stuff every single day with what they do. We sat down last year, and I can't tell you how many pages of fire code we had to go through with Chief Bitts and Chief Daly. I mean, this happens every single year. I'm a little confused as to why all of a sudden this is of concern. So if somebody could explain that to me, I would appreciate that.
I think, at least perspective, the concern is that maybe not a whole lot of information or enough information was put out for people to understand what's going on. And
and I will also say, nobody ever attends these meetings. It is all of us typically, and I'll be honest, I did not attend this last meeting. I had a last minute change and was not able to attend. But we sit in that tiny little conference center over in the corner, and it's a public meeting, and it's just people sitting there going over paper, over paper, over paper. In the hours it takes of prep work to have this meeting, I don't think everybody's recognizing that this isn't just something that gets thrown together and somebody decides stuff. Like, it is a significant committee, and it's a little, I don't know, to me it's not, I mean, granted, we should always question, and everybody always needs to have an opinion, but the fact that I don't feel like we're giving those committee members the appropriate consideration for what they do for this, because it is a lot of work.
Gary Vossler, Michael Kelly, and Frank Gullo have served on this committee since it was established in 1996, and they have reviewed and approved every building code, fire code, or related code the city has adopted or changed since that date. There is extensive institutional knowledge in how the code is applied and what it means.
Mayor, there's a motion in a second. I call for a vote.
Every bit of that is public information. All of this is. That committee is posted online. It's on the website. All these members are. The notifications of these meetings, what goes on there, all of that stuff is public information.
So, Jen,
and I'm not there. I can't see the crowd. I can't see anybody. But people need to know these things.
I'm going to pause for just a second because there is a motion and a second to end this discussion to move on to the next item. All those in favor of ending the discussion?
I'm sorry. What did you say again?
Tabling the discussion.
All those in favor of tabling this discussion and moving on to the next item? Those in favor? Motion passes. Item E2, resolution number 2026-14. Now, this is the consent agenda. Item F2, the Seattle Street and Singapore Lane improvements. Assistant City Manager Robert Bassford.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We received 11 bids for the Seattle Street and Singapore Lane reconstruction project, which is part of our 2023 bond program. While the lowest bid came in significantly lower than the rest, staff and our engineer evaluated all proposals using our standard criteria, including experience, capacity, and cost. Based on their evaluation, Ballast Point scored substantially higher, 73 points compared to the 42 of the low bid, and has demonstrated strong performance in similar projects currently underway within our city, giving them familiarity with our field conditions and utilities. In addition, the lower bid raised some concerns related to experience with full street reconstruction and the potential for change orders due to the large pricing gap. Staff is also recommending both alternates, which have been successful on recent street rehab projects and slightly will reduce the overall cost. As a result of this evaluation process, staff and the design engineer have identified Ballast Point as the lowest responsive and responsible bidder and the best overall value for this city. In addition, we have Mark with Westwood Engineering here to answer any questions you may have.
Robert, I have a quick question, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Jen. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure on this. I know I had a conversation with Austin. I have a resident that lives on Seattle that reached out about the staging area is the best way to describe it, that is being used for a current street project and also plans to be used for this street project. And I just want to make sure that we have it on record that we will be replanting trees that were cut down from the preparing that area for the staging process and repairing all the stuff back there. I know and another resident spoke earlier about the stuff in the front, like the sod and that. This is more of the stuff in the back area that is being used for staging that apparently is a little frustrating for some of the residents, wanting to make sure that like is repaired with like in the back as well.
Okay, I'll have Mark answer about the staging area. To kind of go off of the public comment earlier and what Austin said, yes, we have learned from each of these experiences, and yes, we're going like for like, sod for sod, irrigation and mailboxes to the best of our ability. And then Mark can answer a little bit about the staging area and the trees specifically.
Yeah, we're going to use the same staging area, and we will replant the trees that were taken down in the first phase of the construction projects.
My apologies. Can we get an introduction? You said Mark?
Yeah, Mark Miller with Westwood. Sorry.
Design engineer for this project.
Mark Miller with Westwood, the design engineer. Thank you. Does anybody have any
Sorry,
other?
I was distracted. What? Can you repeat that? What?
The staging area that's currently being used, we're going to use the same staging area due to the proximity of the projects, and the trees that were cut down during the last phase of the project to use the staging area, we'll replant those during this construction project. All vegetation will be repaired.
I have a question for Robert. With respect to Ballast Point, what research did you do on them to determine their ability to perform and timely do exactly what the city and the residents need?
Understood. I'll chime in and let you share as well. So they're currently doing the street reconstruction project right now within the city, so we were able to evaluate them pretty thoroughly based on their current work. Also worth noting that Westwood is the design engineer for the Seattle and Singapore project, but they were not the design engineer for the current project that's going on right now, Australia and Solomon. So we had two positive reviews from separate engineering firms on Ballast Point construction. And then Mark, if you want to elaborate a little more on your research of the proposals, that'd be great.
Yeah, obviously we looked at costs as the first thing, right? And then from there, qualification of their key staff, the existing work they're doing here in the city of Jersey Village. They understand what's underground. They understand the utilities, the field conditions, how to repair those field conditions. It got brought up earlier about irrigation, sprinkler systems, all that they're familiar with, and the references that they put down on their bid forms. Obviously, with the city of Jersey Village being one of those, that's a strong reference because of the job they're doing right now. And everything else that we did background checks on checked out, and they were the second lowest bidder, so they scored the highest points over every. We had 11 bids, as Robert said, and they scored the highest out of all the 11 bidders.
And just so I understand, Robert, did Westwood participate or work with you on the selection and provide input and review the bids as well?
Yeah, so part of our criteria, city staff and the design engineer review all of the bid tabulations, and then they go through a series of background checks, references, capacity to perform the work, likely or experience with like projects, so on and so forth, and then they create an award tabulation based on a set of parameters and a scoring mechanism as well. So our city staff, which would be our project manager Tim, as well as the engineers, work on this together, and then they provide an independent letter of recommendation.
And then last question, pardon, and tell me your name again. Is it Tim?
Mark,
my apologies. Mark with Westwood, have you had any previous experience with Ballast Point, or what's your familiarity with them?
They're working on the construction projects we're tying into, so my experience with them was just making sure where the streets tie in, there's underground utilities, so we were able to coordinate with them on making sure that our elevations line up, things like that, but I haven't had any previous experience before these projects.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And inability, capacity, right, to do things. Ballast Point's currently working on 2 streets right now in reconstruction. Is that correct? Australia and
yeah, Australia and Solomon within our city limits. I don't know if they have any of their current projects currently going on right now.
I meant with respect to
just in Jersey Village, yes. Australia and Solomon, yes.
And regarding the price, that's for not per street. That's for both streets. Seems about almost half of the highest bidder. So this is stemming will be paid for with the 2023 street reconstruction bond. Is there enough left in that fund to do another street if it's at like or slightly inflated prices?
We will make that determination after this project is completed. We think there should be enough to do something, but it's tough to say exactly how much we're going to have left, and then what would that get us when we get to that point. We could do a design for sure, but if we've got $1 million or $1.5 million left, you're not likely to get a full street out of that.
Right.
But we have to look and see. It's a little too early to say definitively at this point in time.
Fair enough. I know that had been discussions earlier. Regarding underground infrastructure, for lack of a better term. We had talked earlier in some side conversations, Robert, about possibility of extra conduit just in case of adding that. Is that part of the plan?
Regarding just conduit banks for future utility line items.
So we don't have to destroy the street any more than necessary?
That is something we have discussed. We haven't formally made that decision to do so, but yes, it was discussed to add a sleeve or two on each side, and that way in the event any contractors needed to do work, they would prevent them from causing disruption.
Okay, and with regard to replacing the water lines there, I know that when we had multiple discussions on sprinkler systems and irrigation taps, I think that's the right term for it. Is it possible that we add that, part of that, or is that not part of this design?
So each project, like you said, we try to learn from our previous mistakes and provide a better level of service for our residents to where they inherit their property in like or better shape. Another thing that we are proposing is for those interested in adding an irrigation meter, we can allow them allow them to purchase that from the city, and then we could, while they're doing the construction, install that at the same time as the meter switch for their resident. That is something that we would like to explore for this project if given the okay to do so.
I think that's a great idea. Thank you.
Can I ask, where was this project advertised?
Online, Civcast, and it was ran in the newspaper, I believe.
Which newspaper?
Yes, Civcast and Houston Chronicle.
Any other comments?
Oh, really quick. There are two alternates as well. So there's a price with alternate A, and then alternate A and B. And so alternate A would be, I guess, kind of like a big plastic pipe, basically, instead of concrete. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, that is correct.
And then alternate B, which is some sort of lime-treated subgrade with Portland cement stabilized subgrade. What is that?
It's just the material in the road base that's underneath the pavement. So lime, I mean, they're both good options, but I think around here, the cement stabilized subgrade is a better option. It's a little cheaper, and that's what they've been using on the other ongoing projects right now. So that's why we decided to just add that as an alternative B, see what the prices came out as, and it's a benefit for the city.
Okay, so does it keep the ground or the dirt from sort of settling down once the concrete gets laid on it?
Not necessarily. It's just a good underneath the concrete layer. When you add the cement into it, it just creates a stronger base. Longevity, it's gonna hold up longer, and it's gonna support the concrete pavement on top of it. Just a little stronger.
Infrastructure. These are the original roads when Jersey Village was built?
Tim, come on up. Tim, sorry. Appreciate the contribution, but
I joined the city in 2020, and I've gone through. This is my 5th project. The first 2 projects we were using lime subgrade, and if you deal with lime, you have the odor, and you got the and then you got the airborne, the dust. It creates a lot of dust, and it's the sub base before the concrete is being poured. With the Congo project and the Congo project, we use lime mix for subgrade. For the Solomon and Australia, due to the high school, there was going to be a nightmare to use lime with the odor and the dust with all the children and the parents. So we decided to go with cement stabilized sand, and it worked great. So we're going to go with it with this project.
I was just wondering how old thank you for that input. How, if these were the original streets, like built in the 50s, or if they were redone in the 60s or 70s or 80s?
Yeah, they were probably using either lime or...
No, when was Singapore? When was Singapore done last?
I'm sorry?
Just the age of the current roads.
Oh, the current road is probably over here is probably 1970s.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Which would likely make them original. It's 1970s.
Yeah.
Any other comments on the side?
Move to approve Resolution 2026-16.
I'll second.
Is that, I just need to clarify if we're approving with alternates A and B.
Including alternatives A and B.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? All those against? Jen, is a delay, you're in favor? Okay. Jen is also in favor. Passes unanimously. Moving on to F3, 2026-11, Compensated Absences Reserve. City Manager Austin Blease.
Mayor and councilors, this is something that came from the workshop that we had a couple weeks, or I guess a month ago or so, setting up the compensated absences. That represents the accrued obligation. While the city does not experience separations at a scale that would utilize the full liability at one time, separations occur each year, and payouts can create budget pressure when multiple high positions separate in the same period. The most recent one, we had about 13% of the compensated absences liability as reported in the audit, but those were 2 senior positions. So after the discussion at the last meeting, council directed staff to come back with a resolution, create a reserve line to help fund this. Right now, staff is recommending 8%, but council can choose whatever percent that you see fit. So beginning with the fiscal year, we're required to implement a new GASB statement as well, GASB Statement 101, and that adjusts the methodology used to account for the potential liability associated with the compensated absences. The main change is that in addition to accounting for payout or sick leave upon separation of employment, governments must evaluate the likelihood that the sick leave will be utilized and build that cost into the liability. That on a staff level doesn't make a lot of sense to us because you've already budgeted their hours on the years already, but GASB does what GASB does, and we have to factor that into these numbers now. So with the balances that are shown with this new GASB statement, the total will be about $1.18 million. The basis for the recommendation of the 8% is based upon that liability aligns with the expected turnover while providing the budget stability. Council also retains the authority to adjust the percentage in future years if you want to. It's important to note that many times when an employee leaves, the cost can be absorbed in the already allocated budget through the savings and salary benefits while the new employee is being hired. So the workshop was very fruitful, and when I had this conversation, and this resolution kind of follows what we believe the intent was of the council at that time, and happy to answer any questions the council might have.
Is the 8% reserve, I know that you state here that it's based on 13% being the 2 senior positions. I mean, does the 8%, is that an accurate representation of today's exposure?
It's tough to predict who is going to leave and when. You've got some retirements that are coming down the next year or two, but we think that 8% is a reasonable number to budget for in the reserve at this point.
And then the process would be, should we take from the reserve in the next fiscal year, we add to it to get to that 8% amount, roughly?
Right. So Section 2 of the resolution here is that immediately following the issuance of the city's annual audit, city manager and finance director shall determine the compensated absences liability as reported in the audit. And if the balance in that reserve in any fund is less than 8%, is what we're recommendation. Council can put whatever percent they want. Then if it's less than that, the city manager and finance director are directed to transfer sufficient funds from the unassigned fund balance for the general fund or from the unrestricted net position in the case of utility fund or golf course fund to bring the compensated absences reserve balance to that required percentage.
Thank you. Well thought out.
Just out of curiosity, if that occurred and if the 8% was transferred, my understanding, so that's a potential liability, but are the funds actually in a separate fund which can earn interest on those funds?
All of the money stays within the general fund. It all stays within tax pool, which is all invested in those types of things. So it's not in a different fund or a different bank account. It's all just a different line and the reserves.
I'm with you. So it's still part of the general fund earning interest. It's just it makes up a portion of the general fund specifically for this intended exposure.
Correct.
So we're sort of setting aside a note saying, just in case we have this money saved up, and then if the funds aren't used for whatever reason, what happens?
They just sit there for the next year. The resolution sets it at whatever percentage the council chooses, and then staff makes sure that after every audit we have at least that amount in there.
And just to clarify, the whole point of this was to prevent having to make budget amendments when people leave or retire, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I think this is a very proactive activity as opposed to a reactive, and it helps allocate those funds already, and they're essentially spoken for to some degree. So this is much like we do with computer funds, fire truck funds. It's rainy day funds, if you will. So kudos to staff for coming up with this solution.
Just to clarify, under the current policy, we would still require a budget amendment because if the funds exceeded the city manager's authority, we would still need to come back to city council for a budget amendment because we are limited in the amount of transfers that we would be able to do from this reserve to any particular department.
I think more important than the exercise of a budget amendment is the fact that those funds are set aside.
Yes,
we're not going to stick our hand in that cookie jar.
It would be more procedural at that point. It would already be allocated funds.
Yes, and the funds would not be available to be used for anything else.
All right.
No, I was going to make a motion.
Well, Reese, yeah. I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2026-12.
I'll second.
At 8%.
Still second the 8%.
Sorry, I'll second the 8%.
Just to make sure we're all clear here. Motion is second at 8%. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item F4, total compensation analysis and organizational gap analysis. City Manager Austin Blease.
So this topic too came out of that workshop. So at the request of the council, we're evaluating the potential engagement of a qualified consultant to perform the comprehensive total compensation analysis and organizational gap analysis. Those efforts would support the city's ongoing commitment to remain competitive in the labor market and ensure organizational effectiveness. The total comp plan evaluates the city pay structure, benefits, and overall compensation competitiveness compared to the external market and internal equity considerations. An organizational gap analysis evaluates current organizational structure, staffing levels, and service delivery to identify potential gaps between current operations and future needs. While peer cities have not recently conducted a formal gap analysis, the initiative was suggested by Council to ensure Jersey Village remains proactive in planning for future growth and service demands. The analysis would provide additional information on potential inefficiencies or capacity gaps, help assess alignment of resources with Council priorities, and offer data to support workforce planning and succession considerations. So this works well with Council's goal from the strategic plan to make strategic investments in staff and supports the comprehensive plan objectives related to municipal capacity and economic vitality. It also complements our emphasis on transparent government and proactive planning. So to better understand what the current market pricing is, we went out and conducted a survey of our peer cities, or cities in general. All respondents reported recent experience with compensation studies. However, nobody reported completing a formal organizational gap analysis. Staff's done the in-house compensation review in the spring 2025. While that effort provided useful insights, Council feedback during the workshop was to have this externally validated. Some of the numbers that we did get on the low side for consultants is approximately $11,000, but the respondent did note that the quality was poor of the final report there. Typical range from many of the agencies was $25,000 to $60,000, and on the high side, approximately $100,000, which was completed about a decade ago. But that scope was likely broader, and obviously a decade ago, that's much dated. So based on the feedback, staff believes the city should anticipate a cost within the mid-range for the total compensation analysis only. That's all that cities have done recently. So we anticipate the scope to be citywide for our employees. The level of market benchmarking would need to be clarified as well. One smaller firm indicated that both studies combined would typically cost in the range of $90,000 to $110,000. So once again, conducting the total compensation analysis would ensure the city remains competitive in attracting and retaining talent, identify internal pay compression or equity concerns, provide defensible data for future compensation decisions, and support the long-term financial planning. The organizational gap analysis, while less commonly performed among our surveyed peers, would evaluate current staffing levels against service demands, identify organizational inefficiencies or capacity gaps, and support the strategic workforce planning, also aligning with Council resources and priorities. So tonight, if Council wants us to move forward, we need that direction. We're asking for direction tonight. If we move forward, staff will put out a request for qualifications for firms to do this type of work. That process would emphasize the experience and methodology over the price alone. We would require firms to provide references from similar projects, evaluate their approach to both compensation and organizational analysis, and conduct interviews with the people that they've done the work for as part of our due diligence. We would rank those firms, bring a recommendation back to Council on a firm. Likely that would not happen until May, just looking at calendars. Once Council approves that firm, we'd negotiate a contract and bring that back to Council for approval, likely June of 26. As this is an expense that's not been budgeted, it would require a budget amendment. The costs would be split across 2 fiscal years, as we would expect this study to take 6 to 9 months. So that would put us having a completed study in about this time next year. So as mentioned, staff just needs direction from Councils as to what steps, if any, Council would like us to take moving forward.
Austin, I have a question with respect to the spreadsheet that you provided as part of this total compensation and gap analysis survey. And I noticed that all of the cities that you surveyed were just down here in the Houston, Harris County, Montgomery County area. Is there a reason why we're not going broader in terms of other cities, perhaps cities with more similar demographics, cities with similar size in terms of square footage, cities with similar size in terms of staff, number of households, that sort of thing? Because it seems like we would get better information if we were trying to see what other cities who are very similar to Jersey Village are doing. So I'm asking why we limited it just to cities in the Houston-Harris County area.
Right. So the HR manager, she put an email out to HR managers around the state asking for people who have done this recently, and this is the list of people that wrote back to her.
I know there's some geographical influences also. I have to deal with a staffing issue and was recently in a conversation with some directors of similar positions, and if I were to take the same job north of Huntsville, I would probably get a 30% increase in pay like that on almost every single city. They're very notorious for paying government workers quite a bit more.
So really quick, so on this total compensation gap analysis survey, the cost column, that's the cost to the city for their survey. Am I reading this right?
Correct.
None of these cities doesn't look like they did a gap survey, just compensation?
Correct. We weren't able to get information from anybody that had done a gap analysis recently.
And from just my recall, which admittedly could be poor, some of these cities, because they're proximate to the Houston area and because they're suburbs, and we would maybe compete against some of these cities for the same types of workers, we actually call these cities, Laura and her team call these cities for compensation comparisons, correct? Every other year?
Right. We get our information from all these cities around us every other year. We provide that information as part of the budget meetings to the council as well. But municipalities, we share a lot of data. It's all public information. We share a lot of data as it comes to wages, benefits, all of those things. So it's not getting the information from cities is fairly easy. Some are slower than others, but it's just a matter of, in this case, if council wants us to continue down to go out for RFQ for these services or not.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but when we did the survey analysis, we were in line with industry standards for across the board for our benefits.
At that point in time, which, that data is at least a year old at this point, because we usually do it in the early part of the year. We have seen several other cities do fairly large pay raises, especially in the areas of law enforcement, for example. Houston last year did a big pay raise, and the county did big pay raises. I know several cities, Stafford I think was one of them, that did very large pay raises as well. So we're falling behind, to put it bluntly, from some of those areas. At some point, we're going to have to do something, whether that's internal again in a year, or if we do this externally, whatever council wishes.
Just to point out, because Mayor Singleton mentioned that there's potentially a disparity if you go north of Montgomery County or if you compare with what occurs in West Texas, but we're not looking at this point at the actual compensation structures in West Texas or North Texas or anything. We're looking at the cost that each of these cities incurred in retaining a consultant to provide a compensation study and a gap study, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So the fact that you may make more money or less money out in West Texas is immaterial. It's really what's the going rate for getting these studies.
The question tonight is more, does council want us to go out for an RFQ? We're not going to get rates until we select a qualified consultant and then try and negotiate a rate. I have no idea what that rate's going to come back at. What we have here tonight is information of what cities have paid in the relatively recent past.
And Austin, if the city goes out for an RFQ to do both a compensation study and a gap study, the city is, when it receives the response from the RFQ, it's under no obligation to proceed forward, is it?
No, there's no obligation until you sign a contract.
Thank you.
Just out of curiosity, do we feel like we have an accurate scope of specifically what we're looking for to go out for RFQ? Because I see compensation analysis and gap analysis, but what I keep hearing from a lot of people, especially from citizen comments, was efficiency study, I believe. I guess I'm just asking, and maybe because I'm not familiar with a gap analysis, is that the same thing?
Gap analysis is typically more staffing related. Like, do you have gaps in the services that you're trying to provide? Are you staffed well enough in your specific departments to provide the services that you need? Efficiency study is pretty broad and can mean a lot of different things, especially across different sectors. But that would not be what these things would focus on. If council wants to look at an efficiency study, we're happy to bring back more information on efficiency studies as well.
I guess my question is more the fact of, do we need to define a better scope before moving forward with anything, or is this the scope everybody's comfortable with? I'm just trying to gauge, and it's hard when I can't really see any of y'all, so I'm not sure how anybody feels about any of this.
No, I agree with what you're saying, Jen, and that I think that we need to, we're trying to determine whether our pay structure to employees, whether the compensation, how it compares with competitors in the market, the efficiencies within the city operations, whether we're getting the most out of the employees, whether there's duties that could be changed or modified or whatever. I think that we need to probably articulate that more succinctly before we just say let's go out for an RFQ, because I don't think we've necessarily given specific direction, and I'd hate to go out for an RFQ that is ambiguous and then we're not sure what we're asking for. So my recommendation would be that we ask the city staff to put together a description, and I don't know, do you feel like you understand what it is we're looking for, Austin?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, neither do I. I feel like Laura has been, from what we've done on our special workshop, I feel like we had a lot of information that I'm still very confused on what extra this is going to provide at a cost of $100,000.
I can weigh in a little bit. I think I am very uncomfortable with $100,000, but I really spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I think ultimately, and it doesn't have to even be this. We don't even have to prove this, because what it sounds like is we might try to redefine the scope. Maybe, am I right? Or okay. I think ultimately it could be about trust. Just making sure that we've dotted our I's, crossed our T's, trust. That's what I think. So for me personally, because I can, that's kind of what I'm getting out of this. That could possibly be a tangible, even though there's nothing tangible, but sort of for residents to see, okay, these are the results, this is what the company came up with. And this is what they found. And they could find nothing that is inefficient. They could find a lot of things that are inefficient. We don't know. But that's what I'm getting out of this.
I guess I just don't understand that, because I feel like we're trying to fix a problem we don't have. And so if we want to do random audits on any part of the city, we can. And we probably can find things or not find things. But when it comes to trust, I think we're put in this position to represent the citizens. And how the sausage is made is we pay these people well. They do their job well. They get employee reviews. We win awards. We have accolades. I feel like they've proven themselves enough to be trusted. Like, what has happened where we are questioning the trust? And I think if that's your answer, then I would welcome anybody to come, like I was saying in the previous workshop, to walk around and meet these people. If you're wanting to build trust with them or learn about them, go talk to them. Go learn about them. They'll tell you anything. And I think once you know a person, once you have that face to face, the trust is there, and that relationship is there. And all of these employees that work here are phenomenal. So I think I just don't. And I don't know if I'll ever be able to wrap my head around the mistrust component, but maybe it's because I take the time to know them and ask questions. And I mean, I don't blindly trust, but I trust them because I'm in it. I go there, I meet them, I talk to them.
Well, I think residents have voiced some significant concerns previously about the costs of operating the city, and we've added headcount at the last budget cycle. We added headcount for a number of positions, and there is an ongoing question about do we need all these people? Are we getting value? And I mean, you say just look around and you can talk to employees and is there trust? And I'll give you a little anecdote. I was in the office one day, in the city's office, talking to the Taryn about water bills, and there's a guy in the corner, and I'm like, what is he doing? And he just sat there while we're having this entire conversation. Turns out this guy that was in the corner is the clerk that had jacked up the fines remitting to the state, that had not done his job. So yeah, there's a lack of trust. I think that we need to scrutinize and make sure that everybody is doing the job that they're paid for, that they're properly compensated, that we're, providing good compensation. But, the cost of running the city is substantial, and we've got to figure out where we can reel it in, or be told by a professional, hey, you know what, it is as thin and lean as it possibly can be, and everybody is doing the best they can possibly do, and you're squeezing max value out of it, and the cost is the cost, so deal with it. And if that's what they say, then that's what they say. But from my perspective, I do believe, Austin, that you need more specific directive as to what we're looking for. And, as of right now at this moment, I'm not prepared to provide that. I'm happy to go back and put a pen to paper and share with you or share with the mayor, and you can distribute it how you want, what I would look for in a potential RFQ, and then perhaps we can come up with something from there.
Then I move we table this till next month.
Hey, I just want to make sure, are you guys also prepared for the fact that we do a gap analysis, it's going to tell us we need 15 more firefighters. You'll know that, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Are you prepared to increase our cost significantly?
I mean, personally, I fully support, but I want to make sure everybody understands that, this, I think there's an idea that doing something.
Hold on 1 second, Jen. I'm sorry. Can we please respect Jennifer? It's really hard to hear her when there's a lot of talk going on here. So when she's talking, can we just please have a little respect for her? Jen, can you repeat yourself, please?
Sorry, I was just trying to say the fact that if, I want to make sure everybody's considering the fact, we do, I know for a fact, if you look at our stuff, I know we need more firefighters. We most likely, I believe we probably also need more police officers. And I can't even imagine if someone comes in professionally and looks at a lot of this stuff, I think we're going to find we're understaffed more so than the opposite. I just think it's something we need to be aware of. We can do studies, and I'm not against doing a study like this, but we also need to understand: are we prepared to take action on what is found from these things?
It's a very valid point. There's not a lot of people that have done a gap analysis, but Harris County recently did, and the chances of a gap analysis finding employees in the city and saying this position could be part-time, this position is not needed, are extremely low. And if anyone is moving forward with this, thinking that it's going to reduce budget, you should really do some research into what these are. This is going to highlight and document a lot of hiring. It's not going to have the effect that people think it might.
I don't disagree with doing it, but I do think we need a more defined scope. And so I would agree with Drew. Did he actually make a motion I didn't hear to table?
He made a motion, yes.
Yes.
And I
would like to second that motion to table till we have a further scope.
I think this one we're all in agreement on. Moving on. So we're going to move to item F5, grant application tracking document. Councilmember Hughes.
Yeah, so over the last several months, I've been requesting information from the city manager with respect to grants that have been submitted. The city manager has pointed out the number of grants that have been applied for, the number of grants that have been awarded. But unfortunately, when I've requested specific information, let me see this grant, let me see the documentation that was submitted, so that we better understand where the city's benefiting or where it can do better, it appears that the record keeping is not as good or not as pristine as it should be. This was discussed in previous council meetings, and because I had requested that information to be met with some resistance, and as a result, in the last, let's say, 45 days, I have received, I believe, 3 grant applications with some supporting documentation. But in the course of doing so, I've also discovered that there is no master record. In other words, the city over the last, I believe it would be about the last 10 years, has received more than $40 million in grants and applied for more than that in grants. But if you said, well, show me a document where we've documented each grant, when it was submitted, all of the documents submitted, where copies of those documents are, and so we can review them, so we can learn from them, so that if something ever happened to Austin and we wanted the benefit of this good work that was done to obtain grants, the city could benefit from it. And when I requested that Austin provide a comprehensive document tracking the as-of date status of all grant applications, including details on each application, such as dollar amount, city match, if any, purpose date submitted, grant sponsor, etc., including an identification of the location of the documents that were actually submitted, and then the outcome, including grant administration, etc., he indicated to me that he did not have such a document, and if council wants him to prepare and maintain that type of document, then council needs to instruct him to do so. I think it is in this city's best interest that it maintain pristine records of grant applications and all supporting documentation, among other things, because a lot of the documentation that's going to be submitted in successive grants is going to be duplicative, whether it's demographics, whether it's floodplains, whether it's whatever. And so if we have a robust resource that's well organized that the city can put its hands on, then it's not having to reinvent the wheel each time. I just think it's good business practice, best practices, to maintain this type of record, and I would like council to instruct the city manager to maintain this type of a record and all the documentation that I've described herein.
Well, I think it's completely fair for council members to ask for information. I think that, and I thought that with what was being provided was what you had asked for. And I guess my question is, is there something specific you're looking for in the information? Or, because the last thing that we received was like a spreadsheet.
Yeah, and that spreadsheet, Austin indicated to me that the spreadsheet, which I sent back to him, and I said, well, this is what you previously provided. And it's a 2 or 3 column spreadsheet which lists each of the fiscal year home elevation grants and all the other grants and talks about the dollar amount, but it doesn't have additional information like where are these documents kept. And as you recall, going back to my request for grant information, and in addition to receiving resistance from Austin about producing it, I was told, well, we don't actually maintain it. It's in the web portal wherever the grant is submitted. And I'm just saying to you that best practices would be for the city to maintain complete and robust records of all of its grant information which has been submitted, grants awarded, grants denied, because this is data, it's information that the city can learn from, that people years from now would benefit from knowing what grant applications worked, what didn't. And it also goes to how difficult the job of obtaining grants is. And I will tell you, part of that, and I got a little frustrated with Austin in the non-response, and I said, okay, look, just give me the grants that were submitted in 2025. And he gave me one in 2025, he gave me the NPRA grant in 2025, and then he gave me a grant from 2024. And then he said, I believe, those are the only grants I recall from 2025. So we're relying on Austin's memory to determine which grants have been applied for, and I just don't think that's a good business practice. I think that we need to have a thorough and robust record of grant applications and all the documents submitted so that we can review it if we ever need to review it. And I'll also point out one other thing, that in the process of him producing information to me, he sent me a couple of files and said, this is it, this is everything. And I went through it, and I documented what he had provided, and I documented what was submitted. And I'm like, no, we're missing these files. I need these two, I need these two. So, I mean, again, if you're going to keep records, keep good records, keep accurate records, keep records that you can get to easily, and if somebody requests it, you can produce them. That's all I'm asking. Should this city maintain good and fair records of these grant applications, which is the city's property?
No, and I agree with that. I think that the city should and does, but like in this it says that you're requesting a comprehensive document tracking the as-of date status of all grant applications, including relevant details on each application, such as dollar amount, city match, if any, purpose, due date, date submitted, grant sponsor, etc. Did I read that? Did I get all of the things? Yeah. So, but in the in the city's records, the amount would the amount be available in the city's records, the amount of the grant? Okay. Would whatever the city matches, if any, that would be available, right? The purpose of the grant, would that be available? The date due, I'm trying to figure that one out. The date submitted, trying to figure that one out. Because I'm just trying to think, do we need that? Not sure. And maybe we do. I don't know. The date submitted, maybe we do need that. I don't know. The grant sponsor, meaning the agency that submitted it, or that you submitted it to, is that on record? So all those things are on record. So are you requesting that there is just a spreadsheet with all that information that is created, so that way that there aren't multiple records for the same grant being pulled? Because I do pull records for my line of business, and so I'm just trying to understand what you're looking for.
Yeah, so what I'm is simply a spreadsheet that says, as of today's date, March 16th, the city has had, here are all the grant applications that have been submitted and awarded. The home elevation grant for fiscal year X in the amount of dollars, here's the date submitted, here was the city match, or here's the total amount awarded, etc. It's just sort of a fill in the blank. And then as time goes on, oh, you know what, now we're applying for a grant for the police for the software system that they were talking about. Let's add that to it. So it's just sort of a living, breathing document that's updated, but it's a good record of what the city has applied for, what it's achieved, what's outstanding, because I know that Austin, on a weekly basis, he provides an update. Here's where we are on one or the other or whatever. And to me, if you're providing that anyway, then to have it in a spreadsheet. So, and the benefit of the spreadsheet, quite frankly, is that you can see overall. It's like looking at 3 dozen cases and trying to understand the value of them. Yes, I can pull every individual case, and I can look at the injury, and I can look at the liability, and blah, blah, blah. But when you put it, the basic, and this is not subjective information, this is objective information. When you put the basic information into a spreadsheet, it tells a story that you can read at a glance. And that information, I think, is very important to this council. And that's why I'm saying, let's just have a policy of maintaining this information in an agreed-upon format that we can access anytime, and then if somebody has a question about where are we on this grant, or could I see that actual grant application, you know where it is.
So in front of me, I see a spreadsheet. I'll even share it with you. Received via email. It could have been from December of 2025 of grants applied for, what the grant was, the amount, and then even grants not applied. So you're saying that due date, date submitted, location of the other information, and other things is missing from this. You're saying that this needs to live in a cloud somewhere so it can be accessible by city council.
I never said that.
Well, you're saying it upon demand.
I'm saying upon request. I don't have any I don't have any problem with obviously there's a reason for keeping this information. I'm not saying it has to be available to me or to any council member immediately living in the cloud. I'm saying just keep a running tab of what's going on.
But
take this document, expand upon it with some of the columns that I put in the
I think that this is
discussion
just a
here,
preferential
and just create a document that we can look at. So if we have questions,
Simon,
It's about the narratives.
Okay, we got to go.
Sure.
Oh, sorry. To me, I mean, I understand your need for that information, and if it turns out that you're requesting it and it's not being provided, then that's a problem. But I think the fact that we're telling staff how to document something versus we need this information, that's a different story. And I truly have a problem with that. I'm not going to tell Public Works how to put up a stop sign as long as it's in guidelines of the state laws. So I, quite frankly, I think it's kind of minimalist, but it works. It's what we need, and it's something that, at the end of the day, as long as there's the documents that you're looking for live somewhere and are accessible within the city, whether they're digital, paper, or whatnot, and they're noted somehow, I think that's the important bit, as along with what Councilmember Rossi was saying.
Okay, but just to be clear,
hold on, Michelle.
I've been waiting so patiently. Also, I feel like this is preferential of how you want the information presented. He does give us weekly updates and he puts the important stuff at the top where we get a summary on these grants, where they're at, what we match. So all of that information is there. What I think is that you want it presented in a different way, which is just extra work that we don't get to decipher on that. And then also, I would like to make a comment that I felt like the emails you were writing were very condescending. Like, please rate this on a 1 through 5 on how difficult you felt like it was. It just felt like I'm unsure what you're fishing for or what's going on, but he does an amazing job at grants. Like I told you in the last meeting, please be respectful, please.
He's confident. Go ahead.
I know. But it's so distracting, and then I lose my train of thought. But other cities come to us for advice on how to get grants. Like, that is how good he is at his job. And so I have no question about your processes and how you go about things. You give us great summaries. They're detailed. And not only do you give us great summaries, when you do your employee review that we have to do every year, you give us a summary, and then you build off the last 5 years of that same grant and summarize that over and over. You give us so much detail at our fingertips that I don't have any questions of like exactly the date you submitted it. If it's in April, May, or June, what was the grant for? Did you get it for our city? What did we match? Congratulations. That was amazing. I mean, thank you for your extra efforts that are not in the typical scope of what a city manager does, by the way. Like, it's above, a lot of the grants he does are above and beyond. And so, like, he does a lot of great things.
Hey, guys, can we hold it down in the back row? I can hear most of that. Simon.
So just to be clear, the reason I said what I sent you an email is because you said the spreadsheet that you maintain, which is attached, which is the one that Drew just mentioned, is the internal working document that you use to track active grant submissions. If council wishes to establish a different format for grant tracking, that direction would appropriately come from full council. So because of that, that's why I said it's hard to believe that the city wouldn't maintain a more robust document of these important, tracking these important documents, grant applications, and all the supporting documentation. And that's why I said this is what I'd like to see. If everyone on council says, Simon, you're nuts, just let Austin do it the way he wants, I wouldn't even think that council needs to tell you to do it that way. I would think that you, as a professional, would know, this spreadsheet that you provide is pretty as what was your term? Bare minimum, right? Bare minimum.
I said minimalist.
Yeah. So why don't I put together a little more robust spreadsheet so that if somebody has a question about this, I've got that information at my hands, and I don't have to come back when somebody says, "Give me the 2025 grant applications," and tell them those are all only the one. I'm sorry, those are all of the ones that I recall from 2025. If everyone else on council here doesn't want to have a robust record of grant applications, then so be it. But I think it's important to the city. I think we should do it. I've said my piece.
Okay. I'm not saying that I don't want a robust record keeping. I was asking questions. I was wondering where this was all coming from. I know that it's stressful. I'm wondering if this is coming from the fact that at first, when you were requesting it, you were having a hard time getting it. Is that how you feel?
Information which is needed when somebody hangs their hat on the fact that, look, I've gotten all these grant applications, so I deserve more compensation. And I'm like, well, let me see how difficult these grant applications are. Let me see that this, and you know what, if I was given some stellar work product that would really show detail, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But instead, I was met with complete resistance. No, I can't provide it. I can only provide parts of it. Oh, it's not available. And the city attorney said, I, as a council member, have an absolute right to have that information.
And nobody is arguing that. In fact, I remember the last time we spoke about this, I even said that we all had a right to it. So I'm not disputing that. I'm just wondering if the need for the spreadsheet is because you were met with resistance.
I'm saying, why not provide the spreadsheet, which would be an easier way to keep track of it. I don't need to design the spreadsheet unless the city manager is incapable of doing it. And then I'm happy to provide a sample. But it seems to me that the fields that I'm talking about, like what are the documents, what's the date of submission, what was the date due, what was the amount awarded, if it was not awarded, is there a reason that we know of, or, this is all information that's good and important for the city. And so I just think it would be good information to have, notwithstanding the fact that the city has obtained grants, that we have this record, et cetera. I just think it's good information for the city to have.
I do feel like you're designing a spreadsheet and you want it this specific in this specific criteria and way. In a lot of these communications, you've said, I need this for my evaluation of Austin's performance. You said tonight, I need this to evaluate his grant applications and his ability to perform. I think the ability is shown in that Jersey Village has consistently gotten approved grants more than we outplay our class, and the city manager has obtained more grants than any previous city manager because previously it was zero. And I think that our job, the way this is written in deciding, you're basically asking us, hey, how's this spreadsheet need to be and what data needs to be there, is getting in the weeds of city operations. Our job's to set standards, set the direction he executes. It's very similar to Drew Wasson's comment of, we don't tell Public Works how to build a stop sign. They've been successful with all of their grants. The city attorney stated that Jersey Village far surpasses most cities with transparency. Far surpasses most cities with transparency. We have done a fabulous job with record keeping. There was an issue that was recently found in an audit, and we immediately went towards fixing it. The overall operation has gone extremely well. And my question is, okay, this spreadsheet, what else? Is this the only thing we're evaluating? What else do we need to look at?
I put this on the agenda. I asked for it on the agenda because Austin, in his reply to me, said, here is the minimalist spreadsheet that I keep, and if council wants something more than that, he needs direction.
Could I confirm which email he's referring to, which spreadsheet is, because there were a lot of back and forth and a lot of documents that were shared.
I believe it was sent again on March 3rd.
At 8:47 p.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
It's an Excel spreadsheet titled Grant List, correct?
Yes.
And that's the same spreadsheet you had provided much previously.
Yeah, back in December.
So you want so this says grant amounts awarded that I wrote. So that's the first column. The second column is the grant amount. And then he has like a note next to some of them that says like waiting for final award. So you want like a few other columns added in there?
Happy, it perplexes me that I would need to do this. I actually thought about doing it and bringing it to this meeting, and I thought, no, that's just ridiculous. Surely that if I describe these columns, surely if I describe the general information that any city administrator, any city councilman would want to know about their grants, somebody could take the hint and say, yeah, I can put this together.
Well, I actually feel like you're being a little condescending to me because I'm asking questions. Okay?
No. All I'm saying is it's pretty darn easy, and I'm happy to put it together.
To me. So I'm asking questions to clarify what you're looking for, okay? I know this takes a lot of time for them because I've had to do it myself at work. If you would like me to put together the spreadsheet, I am happy to do it, okay? I have no problem with us keeping robust records. I think that the city does do a good job, considering that our MUDs do the same thing. I think that he has provided a lot of information. I am happy to provide any help in putting together a spreadsheet. That way this city has robust records moving forward.
Let's do it. You and I, Connie, we'll put it together.
I'm happy to work with you on that.
We'll bring it back to council. If council looks at it and says, hey, this is good, let's implement this, then we can move forward.
That sounds great. I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Is there anything else on this item?
No, I think that's covered it.
I will finish this up by saying I would give approval for Connie and or Councilmember Hughes and Rossi's work to be submitted to staff if that's what they think is necessary. I don't feel like council, once again, should be involved in this level of detail, and I don't want to waste an agenda item on it. But that's my personal point of view.
If council wants me to change my internal processes, which he has never asked me about how I track records or anything like that, that needs to come from the full council. They're more than welcome to provide a spreadsheet, but if council wants me to utilize something like that, then I would appreciate that coming from the full council. We've got records. We've got good records. We've got records that are easy to find, easy to navigate, easy to pull data from previous grant applications for. But that's not what this seems to be about at all. The condescending nature of everything is extremely frustrating. Extremely frustrating.
Both ways, Austin. Goes both ways. Let's just call
it a spade. In my 16 years of being city manager, I've never seen things like this before. So I would appreciate full council approval if there's something we want to change.
Council approval, like on the spreadsheet, you mean? Well, I'm happy to work with Simon and staff on getting this put together, and that's fine with me. I don't mind doing the work.
You go ahead, Jen.
I'm sorry. I mean, like, records are supposed to be kept, and I know we agreed on, I believe, several months back that there would be a spreadsheet. But I got to be honest. At some point, it's too much. I don't know how else to say that. Like, the back and forth was a lot, guys, and I didn't care for the tone of the emails personally. I felt like it really got kind of out of hand. I thought we agreed to a spreadsheet. I do not feel that it is my job to get in and say the title of every column. To be quite honest, I don't care if the information's on there. I don't care how it's provided, as long as it's easily read and acceptable. And at any point in time, I think anybody on council should be able to access whatever information they think they need for whatever reason, as long as it relates to council. But I'm a little confused as to where we're going here. Like, why do we? Are we really going to take a vote on something like over a spreadsheet? Like, is that where we're at?
No. I don't think we should have to take a vote.
Well,
Just do it.
But you're also talking about the whole reason this came here was the request for significant time, staff investment in going back and pulling records and creating additional fields in this spreadsheet that the staff is happy with the way the spreadsheet is. If you're going to make the spreadsheet the two of you want, okay, but there's still going to be a lot of staff involvement in pulling information and assisting you with creating it, because all that information has to be pulled. So the question is not, it's somewhat what spreadsheet and what fields, but it's also how much is the whole of council willing to spend staff time away from regular duties in pulling this information and helping to create this.
Could we, moving forward, just follow the dollar amount, city match, purpose, due date, date submitted, grant sponsor, just moving forward? If that's going to take up a lot of time, because I agree it is going to take a lot of time for them, pulling stuff for us to put this together. But is there a way to just maybe moving forward do it this way, where we have those columns? I think the spreadsheet is fine, but hey, if it helps the community and it helps, fine. But what about moving forward? Every grant from now on is documented, just a little spreadsheet like that.
I certainly think that moving forward, open grant applications, having that information is good. I think that as and if Austin doesn't have the resources to do it, if I look at grant applications, I'm happy to provide the data and help populate that. I just think it's good information for the city to have.
And that's fine, but what I think Mayor Singleton is saying is, for you and I to get this information put into that spreadsheet, they're still going to have to pull records for us to generate that information to a spreadsheet. That's kind of what at least, am I misspeaking? But that's what I'm gathering.
Yes, the question is, does the whole of council want to expend the staff time to go backwards and pull that info?
I do not.
I mean, I
think bigger picture, in our internet age, we know how accessible information is. The city has all the information to itself. It can be accessible. Granted, it takes time to get a bunch of that. I understand the true purpose is look back and learn from that information that has gone before. We've all been to test banks in college and looked at tests that have gone before, and we've learned from those. My point is that if Austin wins a lottery tomorrow and decides, you know what, $40 billion is a great retirement, this has been great, Jersey Village, but we're moving to the Bahamas or Turks and Caicos, or split time between the two, and someone else takes over, they have the information. It's just not all in one place. It will take time to put it in there. So it's either time now or time later, or time when somebody asks for it to put it in one place. To me, if city staff says we have bigger priorities to do than keep this all in one place, or go back and look for information in the past, and we'll do it when it's as needed, I'm along that road, because we already we said we'd table an item about gap efficiencies and efficiency studies. And to me, this is not efficient. And Simon, I truly understand the purpose and what you're trying to get at. I just don't think, I don't agree with the priority, and I don't agree with necessarily telling staff how to operate at that micro level.
So would it be, what if this document is as needed, as they have time? There are things in my office right now that are not today priorities. When I have a few minutes, I pluck at them. Is that sufficient?
I'm certainly willing to work with everyone on that. I think the probably the first thing, Connie, is for you and I to put together a spreadsheet.
Fair enough.
When, as the whole of council, they're going to create this spreadsheet, how far back are they going to go? I know there's some details on it, but how much staff time are we going to expend to create it?
Might I suggest, Mayor Singleton, that you let Connie and I work on it, bring it back to council, and move forward from there?
So 0 staff time?
No, wait a minute. Are you asking, like, once we kind of get together the spreadsheet that he's asking for, once we have it together, how much time we want staff to work on collecting that information?
Yeah, I'm looking to define some things. We've had quite a bit of discussion today that hasn't had a whole lot of definition, and this is again an item of we're going to create a spreadsheet. Okay, are y'all just creating the header row of the information you want to collect? Are you going back 5 years, 10 years? Is this, as you mentioned, starting today and moving forward?
And as I just told you, I think that if Councilmember Rossi and I get together and talk about it, maybe we can come up with a solution that we can present to you and council with a recommendation.
So sort of like you and I would be a subcommittee to this thing?
We're not going to do subcommittee, but are the three of y'all are voting, are y'all clear and good, or do you understand where this is going?
Okay, so if I understand correctly, the Connie or Councilmember Rossi and Hughes will figure out what they want on the spreadsheet and decide how best they would go forward with that. When they come up with an idea for the spreadsheet, they'll represent the spreadsheet to council.
And I think the way it's going is they'll fill in as many categories as possible based on the information they have, and they will not use staff time until after the spreadsheet is presented to council.
When the sheet is putting together, it'd be best if you two didn't talk to any other council members about anything related to the sheet, just out of abundance of caution related to open meetings.
I understand that completely.
Is that the correct definition?
Seems a little odd.
Oh, now I heard you. Okay. So that's the correct definition. The two of you are going to work with a spreadsheet proposal of what you would have. You're going to use your own time to fill in whatever blanks you can, and there's no staff time involved yet until this comes back.
That is correct.
All right, moving on to mayor and councilor comments. Councilmember McCray.
I'll be brief tonight. I did want to make a comment and a thank you to B Shift paramedics and firefighters. Last week, they came to my house when my son had a major asthma attack, and we needed help. And they came quickly and took care of the situation. That was absolutely terrifying for us. And I just wanted to say thank you because they did an excellent job of taking care of him and making us feel like everything was going to be okay. So thank you.
Councilmember Rossi?
Excuse me. Are we not going into executive session?
We are.
Okay.
Councilmember Rossi?
Well, I wanted to take a moment to talk about rhetoric. We sometimes hear about local elected officials. My colleagues here on the dais, the city staff, and I have always made ourselves available to answer questions and concerns. There's a saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And the saying goes, if it sounds terrible and disastrous, too terrible and disastrous, it probably is. And I encourage all of us to be critical thinkers, ask the hard questions, and hold all of us accountable. We're neighbors. We pay taxes, the same taxes that you do. We feel the same stress of water rates and everything in between. But we also love this community. We love seeing families walk in our parks. Neighbors share a meal. Visitors admire our little town and want to make it their home. We're all doing the best to represent every resident. So please consider giving your elected officials the benefit of the doubt, and feel free to reach out to us anytime you want.
Councilmember Watson.
Well said, Councilmember Rossi, and ditto. A couple weeks ago, Councilmember McCray, who moonlights as a school teacher, asked if I could come speak at Cook Middle School or take part in their Leaders Day, along with our police force and other members of the local community. I was happy to be joined by City Manager Blease, and I think you and I single-handedly invited every single middle schooler to the Taylor Swift-ish concert. But all in all, it was a fun day. Had quite a few firm handshakes, which I wasn't expecting, and I think the leaders in this community are already here and they're growing. So don't tick them off. I'm teasing. We got some good kids, and I look forward to seeing them grow. Speaking of growing, Jersey Village is about to have another birthday. Founders Day is coming up April 11th, which is before the next City Council meeting. So Parks and Rec is getting set and setter for that. So looking forward to that. And tomorrow is St. Paddy's Day, so may the luck of the Irish be with all of you.
Councilman Hughes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. First, thanks to everybody who attended either by video or here in person. Appreciate y'all taking the time. Appreciate all the residents who voiced their concerns over some of the agenda items. Obviously, the decisions that are made up here affect all of you, all of the residents here in Jersey Village, and so it's very important that you remain involved, that you do your best to remain informed about what's going on, and that if you see something you like or you dislike or you have an opinion on, that you let those opinions be known to your council members. Also want to point out, and we've got 4 of the candidates who are running in the 2 opposed races for the city election for 2 city council members in place of Councilmember McCray, who will be stepping down, and Councilmember Watson, who will be stepping down. I encourage everyone to go out and meet all of those candidates, learn about them, learn about their background, figure out what their priorities are, what their interests are, figure out whether their priorities and interests and their temperament aligns with yours, whether they are the right candidate for you or not. There are meet and greets that occur around the city. There are opportunities. I'm sure any candidate, if you call them up and say, hey, I'd like to talk to you, I'd like to bend your ear for 15 or 30 minutes, they'd be more than happy to meet with you. So I encourage all residents around Jersey Village, go out, listen to the candidates, learn what they have to say so you can make an informed decision when you go to the polls. Thank you.
Councilmember Martin.
Well, I'm really excited about Founders Day. It's one of my favorite events that we do. Excited to see what cool rides and all of the good stuff we have coming up. Also, it's spring, so blue bonnets are up. I love seeing all of the pictures of you guys out in the bayou. I think I just wanted to say thank you for everybody who's behind the scenes and does a lot of this work. I know there's, maybe 10 of us here, but there's a lot that goes into these meetings to get things prepared and get people up to date, and we get a lot of the summation of it, and we trust those who work behind the scenes, and I really, really do appreciate all the hard work that everybody does behind the scenes. I think this is one of the best places to work, and apparently so does the rest of Houston. And that's all I'll say about that.
There was a lot of talk about the International Property Maintenance Code item. I'm going to hold a town hall event. I'm going to find the right date, and we're going to talk some more about it. It was thoroughly reviewed, but in the same way that all the other codes were. So we give an opportunity to do some back and forth and help people understand. One resident even commented, like, "Well, if I didn't know that." So we're going to go through the process and see if we can help everybody understand its purpose and why before it comes back next month. Forward to Founders Day, absolutely get out there, get informed. And that is the end of council comments. We are now going to move to the executive session. Just the bookmark didn't work. Hold on. I really need a paper copy. So, pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.074, Personnel Matters, the council now adjourned to an executive session in order to deliberate the public offices of the City Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee at 9:56. Austin? All right, we're going to re-adjourn the regular session at 10:25. The executive session was convened at 10:01 and ended at 10:23, and no official action or vote was taken. Moving on to K1, Resolution 2026-17, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee appointments. I have a motion.
I will make a motion to approve Resolution 2026-17. Brinkley, position 7, Gibbs, position A2, and Tran, position A3.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion passes. And the meeting is adjourned at 10:26.